Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
Hi, Gabe.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going good.
I'm just fixing some stuff. We're
He's pressing some buttons.
yeah, I'm just pressing some buttons. But we want to just hang out with everybody. How's everybody doing?
Yeah. I hope everybody's doing fine.
You ready to get going?
Yeah.
We're gonna start with you.
We are going to start with me.
Show us. I don't know which button to push. Is that one? Bam.
It is that one.
Is that one.
There we go. Hi, Gabe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
What are you doing?
I'm adding a new title.
You're editing Twitch. That's nice. So today we are going to finish the game. In that sense, what I mean is there's still a lot of work that you can do. Of course, there's always more. There's always what I say sometimes to people that message me asking for advice and all that is that there's often the question of how do I go from a small project to a big project? I always feel like I can do the small things, I can do the little exercises, but how do I make the big project? And what I say is you don't. Small projects become big projects. There's nobody that sits down and says, I'm going to make this gigantic thing. It's more of let's make this smaller thing work. Okay, we got that working. Then let's make the next smaller thing work. Of course, in our context, that was a lot of like for a experienced programmer, it's small, and for them, making a system might be really, really big in our minds, if that makes sense.
I think you qualify as an experienced programmer.
A little bit, yeah. So for us, the game is going to be done now after this episode, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And after the episode, we'll go over like what you can do yourselves. But as a learning opportunity, we are done with the game. There's still one more episode after this one, so stick around. I'll have a little fun surprise for you in that one, but it won't be about the game itself. Not in the sense that we know right now.
Learning isn't done.
Learning is never done. Never, ever. So let's look at the code that we have right now. So if we go, I have here, oops, I wanted to minimize that. So the idea, if you haven't joined for a while, is to use openprocessing.org, which is the website that we've been using. You don't even need to sign up. You can just click create sketch on the front page. And today, the idea is to use episode 8 as the code, because we didn't do any coding in episode 9. It was a kind of a refresher episode. So on our GitHub, github.com/NGON gaming, there is a code school repository. And there is episode 8, and there are 2 files there. And what you can do is you can click on the file. For example, I'm going to click on main proc, and there is raw. You can click on the raw, and what you will get is a raw file like this. And with that one, you could just do Control-A and copy and paste that into open processing. And what I've done here, of course, we need to set to processing.js. We need to show tabs because we have more than one file. Otherwise, we can't see the files. And you can just, for main, rename that to main, paste the code in, box, rename that to a second tab, rename that to box, and paste the code in. That's the only thing I've been doing. And when we hit play, we can get the good old classic laggy screen full of bullets.
But it's full of bullets.
Yeah. There's one thing that I did, and I kind of did it deliberately, because I didn't want to complicate starting this episode. Because in last episode, we talked about the bug fixes that the community has done and the weapons. I didn't add them in here, and the bug is still there, and we still have the old gun. But for this episode, it doesn't matter. That's the main thing. What I will do is, after this episode, when I upload episode 10, it will include... It will be 2 episodes, basically. It will be episode 10, which is what we will do today. And then it will be what I'm going to call like final game or something like that, which will include the guns and which will include the bug fix. Okay, So that it's basically to simplify for you that you could just copy paste the stuff into open processing and you don't have to think about it, which is a major point. So have you set this up, Gabe?
I have not fully.
Not fully.
I can set it up though.
Yeah. So while he's setting it up, let's go a little bit through the code itself and see what's going on. So this is our main file. I'm going to increase the font size a little bit. Let's see how it is on my preview here. This looks good.
So you have main and box. So
main and box, yes.
I just copy everything from that episode 8 into main.
Yeah, so main...
We have nothing in box right now.
You have main, in episode 8 you have main.proc, that can go into main, and you have box.proc, and that goes into box.
Okay.
Yeah,
those
two files.
Both of those.
And while you're grabbing those, or you should probably be done, yeah, probably now.
Yeah,
if you hit play, you should be, yeah. You got that. Great. Then let's go to the dual view and look at it that way. There we go. And let me do this as well. And I can shrink the font size a little bit. There we go. That's better. So let's just look at the structures we have. Let's not think about what the code is doing in detail. Let's just look at the general idea of what's going on here. So what is going on here with the first few lines?
We are creating a box.
Creating a box.
We're creating bullets.
So this is the spaceship that we control, which is just a box, and we're creating
an array of bullets.
Array of bullets. So we have 500 bullets there. So we're creating memory for bullets. That's great. So this is kind of, if you think of this as initializing us as a player, right? Great. Then let's look at this thing here. What's going on here?
We are creating enemies.
Yep.
Array of enemies. But that's using a for, what is it called? For
loop.
A for loop to create many enemies.
Many enemies.
In different positions.
So these are two separate things. So first here we are creating the array of enemies, which are just an array of boxes similar to bullets. Creating 250 enemies. But this just creates the memory for the enemies. Here, then we are going through each memory location. So enemies I, which is the ith enemy. And then in that slot...
The ith enemy.
Ith enemy, yeah.
I like that.
We are initializing a box.
Can you make your text just a little bit smaller?
Yes, I will.
Cut off a bit. Yeah, perfect.
Let's see that. Yeah, we're perfect. So in the same way where we are creating a player over here with an X and a Y location and then the size, we are creating an enemy, just many of them, with a random location on the screen, and then the height and the width of the enemy. Great. So if we think of this abstractly, this is creating us in a sense, because we are using the bullets.
We're box.
We're box.
Everything is box, actually.
Everything is box.
Spaceship.
Yeah. The variable's name is spaceship. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So this is creating us, and then this is creating the enemies. So these are two initializations thing. Okay, great. Then we have the classic setup, and you've noticed that we haven't touched this since like episode 1.
Yeah.
Because
empty. I don't even remember what no stroke means. Is that it doesn't.
When you have a box, it doesn't create the outline.
Okay.
Yep. And then our sweet 60 FPS has not changed.
Sweeter if it was 144.
Exactly. Then we have our two key functions.
Yep.
We're forwarding the key to the spaceship, but we're also saying if you press the space bar, you are creating a bullet of some sorts, right? So again, not going into the details, just a general abstract idea. This is creating a bullet when you hit the space bar. Great. And then we go down here to draw. Let's think of the draw that we have here kind of abstractly as well. So first we clear the screen. That's just a general, we don't want to clear the screen. Then we say fill for 02550, which is red. Then we update ourselves and we draw ourselves. So this is kind of, we would like to draw or update us, right? Cool. And then we change the color to sort of a gray. It's 50-50-50, red, green, and blue. And this is for every bullet that is that we created above. We're going through every one. If it has a value, we update the bullet, and we draw the bullet. So again, this is updating us, and this is updating the bullet, which means, or updating us drawing the bullet, which means that all of this is updating us, drawing us, and then updating the bullets and drawing the bullets, right? And then if I'm going to hit the enter a few times so I can create some space, is here I have a fill for 25500, and here I'm going through every enemy. So that's the enemy array we created above. If the enemy is not 0, which means that there exists an enemy, we do a collision check by calling update. We check the collision. If we did actually collide, we delete the enemy, which we saw in an episode before.
Delete the enemies.
Delete the enemies, yeah. And then but if we didn't continue, and if you remember, continue that means you don't go down, you go up. We actually draw the enemy, which means that it didn't collide. So then we can think of this as kind of an update and draw of the enemy.
Whether or not they exist or not.
Yeah. But now we have this code. Here's the initialization of us, initialization of enemy. Here's some keyboard stuff. Here is drawing and updating of us and bullets, and drawing and updating of enemy. Why is this code mixed together in one space? This is a bunch of, like, this is code. This is logic you have to go through and think about.
What, you mean like create more tabs like we did for boxes?
Yes. So that's the idea now.
Make it a little bit more cleaner.
It is. Because the idea, or like the goal today, is to, when there are no more enemies, let's show a text on the screen that says, yeah, that just says you win.
I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I need some motivation in my life. I don't want to see you died anymore. I want to see you win.
You win. Yeah, so let's do that. But imagine if we do this now.
Hello, Mark.
It's a little tricky, right? Where would you put that logic? Where is a nice place to say, like, how many enemies do we have? Like, it would have to be somewhere here, right?
So how many enemies we have on screen?
Yes.
With the array?
Well, the array is always 250. So the length of the array is always going to be 250. Because remember, arrays...
Would it be done with the draw then? How many we've...
Again, no, because what we have to do is we have to create a count that says how many enemies do we have initially, which is 250. And then when an enemy dies or is deleted...
Remove one count.
Yeah, -1 of the account. And then we have to ask the question, if the count is 0, you show the text. But we also don't want the player to be able to play the game anymore. Like, we can freeze the game.
Dead.
You can't move, you can't press the buttons. Which means that if we're saying we can't press the buttons, right? It should just show the text like it's a status screen. And then, or even we can say that...
Maybe there's like a replay button under it, but you can't continue what was there on screen.
Something like that, yeah. Imagine then so we could do the counting code pretty easily, but how could we do so the game doesn't play on? You can't move the character.
Stop drawing?
Yeah, you would stop drawing and you would stop calling update. Yeah. But that would then mean that we would have to put an if around all of this, right? And we would have to put an if.
That's a lot of questions it's asking every time.
Yeah, and that's just for one state. Yeah. What if you want to have, like, how would you do a reset? How would you reset all of this? You see the complexity that's happening here.
I'm not sure where is someone asking in chat what game we're actually making. We're not really making a game, it's just showing the principles
of game making. Well, it's showing the idea is to show the principles of programming while making something fun.
Yes. Which
games are fun, so let's make a little game-like thing.
Right now we're making, basically the idea is we just have a box that shoots boxes at other boxes.
Yeah, we can show that.
Eliminate all the other boxes.
So we have 250 screens on the screen right now, 250 enemies. So it's kind of like a top-down shooter kind of thing. Yeah, a lot of bullets. The game itself isn't, like, it is fun. I mean, it's silly.
It's more of a visual representation of what we've been working on.
You just nailed that.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful sentence, sir.
And we do have other plans in the future to expand on this.
Yes.
But that's not for season 1.
Mm-mm. So,
continue with what we have now.
So we both agree that adding, like, we could add logic there. There's nothing stopping. We could add ifs here and there. We could add some numbers increasing up and down, yada yada yada. That is possible. But then someone would say, can you add another thing? Okay, then we would add more questions. Then add the third thing, add the more questions. Then it becomes, like someone said before, kind of a spaghetti code, like what is doing what and where. You would have bugs, like it's a mess. So to add the game state, the win state, we don't have to change the code, but I'm going to show you that by changing the code, adding the game state, it's so much easier. So we did this a little bit before with box, because we had a problem. We had all this code, it was in our way, we couldn't work with it. So by creating a tab called box, it was like all of this logic here is just box logic. Yeah. You can look at stuff on the screen right now, it's all box stuff. We're just using it. So now we're going to do that again. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a new tab.
There's a little plus sign for here.
Yeah, there's a.
You can't really see it because it gets cut off in the overlay, but there's a little plus sign here.
Yeah, and if you don't see it, there should be a tabs thing here, and you would say show tabs. Then you can see it. And let's rename this tab to player. Yes. So we're going to create player. Maybe not visible for me. I have player as a tab here. Let's go back here. Whoop, there we go. And
our overlay is too thick.
So let's go through and analyze what is a player in our sense.
That's a really theoretical question.
It is.
What even is a player?
What is a player?
What even defines a player?
For us, a player is definitely this variable here. Yeah. Spaceship, yes. And then I would also say anything that uses spaceship is also player. So spaceship on key typed is player. Spaceship on key released is player. Spaceship update and spaceship draw is player. So we would like this variable in our player tab. What else is player? Bullets?
No, I mean, yeah, they come out of the player.
Yeah. For this exercise, let's say that yes. Yes. A player is bullets because player has the bullets and he shoots the bullets. You could argue that we would make another tab called gun, which has all the bullets and does the shooting, and then the player has a gun. You see what I mean? But for this exercise, it would take a little bit too long, and let's just say that player has bullets. And then later on, if the logic in player becomes too complex, that is another opportunity to take gun out of player and making a gun, basically, or the bullets. And this is the thing we call one of the principles, the abstraction, and what we're doing right now is called refactoring. We are cleaning up, and it will take some time to clean up, so we will be faster in the future. And this is a very important principle in programming, that you do work, you have some code on screen, but then to be faster in the future, you need to clean it up a little bit to then, basically to be able to work, right? So we would say bullet is in player, and then also current bullet. So all variables that use bullet, this thing here, and then use current bullet, which is also the loop here for bullet and bullets, right? So let us go to player, and what we're going to do is make a class. And again, class is a grouping of variables and functions, and that class is going to be called player, class player. Let's add 2 curly braces, and then
oh man, it's been a while since I typed curly braces.
Yeah,
it's slow.
So we're not going to call it spaceship within player. It is a box.
Yes.
And I'm going to call it my box.
Ooh.
Yes, for this.
Mine.
My box. And then we're also going to create an array called my bullets. And then, like before, we had the current bullet, which is an integer, and let's call that my current bullet, right? So again, this is just the spaceship box, the array of bullets, and my current bullet, and I'm just recreating that here. And then I'm going to create a constructor. Do you remember what a constructor is?
I do not.
A constructor is basically this function here from box.
Okay.
So when you new a box, you have these arguments here, which is a way to create a new instance of the type box. So if you go to box, we have some variables here, and we have the constructor. So when a new box is created, you have to call this function here, which will set the values so we can use them within the class. So this is a way to create a new instance of it. So we're going to create a constructor, and they are always called from the name of the class. And the constructor is going to have two arguments, which is the position. We're not going to mess with the size right now. So it's going to be int ax and int ay. And then what we can do now then, since the variable we have here is my box, which is going to be the actual box of the spaceship, but it hasn't been initialized. Remember, initialization of variables is two steps. It's creating the variable and then setting the value. So here we are creating the variable, and then here we can say my box is equal to new box, and box takes, remember, x and y, and then the size. Yeah. So we can say ax, ay, and then 32 and 32. So again, we're wrapping player within box. Box within player. So we're creating.
In the future, we can just say player.
Yes.
And we know what that is.
Yes. So, and then also we want to create the bullets. So we say new my bullets is equal to new box, and that is an array. And how many bullets do we have?
200.
200. Sure.
250.
250. Let's do that. Great. And then we need to set the value of my current bullet.
Actually, I lied. I think 250 was the enemies.
It's
500.
500. Let's do that. 500. And then again, we have created the variable, but we haven't set the value. So we will say my current bullet is 0. So you can see the correlation between this thing here. I have a player, and a player is a box, an array of boxes, which is the bullets, and the current bullet, which is the bullet logic we did before. We have the constructor, which is used to create a new player, which then creates a new box on the screen on the x and y axis. It creates space for 500 bullets and says that the current bullet is 0. If you go back to main, it's this, right? There's a variable of type box that has a new value. There's an array of bullets, and there is a current bullet value, which is this initialization, right? Cool. Then let's go and look at how we draw a player. So we draw a player by, so clear is a global thing that is separate from player. We will fill with a color. We will call update on what? What is the update on?
On box.
Yes, we call update on box and give it the enemies, and we call draw on
the
box. So it's important that if we want to update and if we want to draw, we call the update on the box, but we still would like to call update on player, right? So let's make a function in player called update, which then mimics the call update in box, because we're just passing through. If someone calls update in player, he's basically just calling update in box. We're just a middleman. So if we look at box, the update is a Boolean because it returns true or false if you've collided with anything. It's called update. We went past it. It's like halfway through. There it is. And it takes an array of boxes that is called the thing you want to collide with. We call it a collision. And we can just copy that because we're going to do the same thing. So let's paste that in. Great. And like I said before, when someone calls update on player, it calls update on box. So how would we do that?
We call update on player, it calls update on box.
Yeah.
Don't we need to...
So what is the variable that is the box?
Spaceship.
What's it called here?
My box.
My box, cool. And how would you call the function?
So wait, we need, sorry, say the first part again.
Mm-hmm. To be able to call, so when someone calls update on player,
yeah,
that should just be an update on the box.
So it should be .update?
Yes. And what does update take?
That I don't remember. We need it, isn't it the name of the variable?
The name of the variable doesn't matter,
okay,
no.
Yeah.
What's the type? It takes in...
The box.
Yeah.
It takes in
an array of boxes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
fumbling over my words.
It's fine. Yeah. In this context, do we have an array of boxes?
Well, no. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
What's it called?
My box. Well no. So we want the bullets now.
In this context here.
Yes.
Do we have an array of boxes?
No.
Isn't this a variable that is an array of boxes?
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah. So someone just sent us an array of boxes.
Yes.
We don't know who, but someone did.
Someone magical.
Yeah.
My brain is also exploding. I'm also in chat here.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Otherwise, everybody would be a programmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an array of boxes that someone sent us.
Yeah.
And as I said before, we would like to just pass it along. So I just paste it in and close. So think of this.
Yeah, I forgot that this is
the name internally. Yeah. This name has nothing to do with the name outside from someone who's calling it.
Because it's created. Where do we create that?
Go to main. And go down and look at the enemies. Enemies update bullet, line 64.
Update bullet.
Yeah. So what is being sent in? Yeah. What is being sent in is called bullets.
And this is where it's created.
This is the result of the... Go look at line 54 as well. Here we call update just with an empty array.
Yeah.
And in line 64, we call update, but not with an empty array, but with the array bullets, which is an array of boxes.
Which is up here.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Line 2.
Yes.
Yeah, which is an array of boxes. The function doesn't know where the data came from. It just knows what kind of data it's being given. So in the case of when we create player outside in main later on, we still want to call player.update, but we are not going to do any of that logic because it has already been implemented by us.
Okay.
So we would just like to say, you do it. I know who can do the work. I'm not going to do the work. Yeah, exactly. So this is just my box update. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we would like to draw the player, right?
Sorry, I had to thank someone in chat.
You got this, Gabe. Yeah.
Do I though?
Yes, you do. So here is the box we have. And again, it is the box that does the draw.
Yeah.
And the player is again just going to call the draw on the box. But we would still like to be able to call player.draw, right? We'd like to draw the player, but the player doesn't know how to draw itself.
Which we need to, is that because we need to call it my box?
Yes. Yes. So if we do void draw, so we create a draw function. I'm going to scroll a little bit so people can see. There we go. Let me format this a little bit.
Get ready for that issue and do it myself too.
It's fine. So the player doesn't know how to draw, but the box knows how to draw, right?
I don't know how to draw either.
No. So how does the box know how to draw? My box.
.draw.
Yeah. Done.
Nice, easy.
So you see that we create the player. The player is a box.
Yeah.
We create an update function, but that update function is just calling the update function in the box. We create a draw function, but that draw function is calling the draw function in the box.
So now it knows that it's drawing my box. So basically just drawing my box now.
Yeah.
Which is us.
Yeah.
Because we are the player.
Correct.
Nice.
So, but if you look at this, you say like, what's the point? Why don't I just do that on the outside? But that's exactly the point, that we want to wrap all of this logic in one location, because we are a box and bullets. And because we are box and bullets, then let's look at bullets. How do you bullet? let's think about.
That's not something we teach on this.
No. Let's start with drawing, since that's a little simpler. So drawing a bullet is
the colors,
the color, and then a loop through all the bullets. And if a bullet has been instantiated, someone made a bullet, we call update, and then we call draw. So the drawing of bullet is just one part of this, right? If this here is a loop, we don't want update in our draw function.
Yeah.
So, but let's copy this thing from line 50 to 58 here, or 49 from your end. I probably didn't enter.
Somewhere.
It's fine. And let's put that into our draw function. Just dump that in. We can play with formatting a little bit. There we go.
Oh my God, you were so fast with that. Is that right?
Practice. No. Practice.
Is that right?
No. 24 in one. And then 28 and 29 in one.
Got it.
Yeah. And then 31 in one.
Someone will open the door. Very loud noise outside.
Yeah. But this is going through all the bullets. And if a bullet is not null, it doesn't update, which you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So let's just erase that. Let's just do the draw. But there's another problem here. Oops, you did.
Oops.
You're too aggressive. Just
update.
There we go.
Just get rid of it all.
Yeah. So my box is a variable.
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
The box, the array we created. No.
Who created this variable?
Well, we created it above.
Correct. Over here.
Oh, the bullets is in the array. Never mind.
Yeah. So bullets. Just bullets. Who created that one?
I mean, we did.
Where? That's not the same file. Isn't this named wrong, basically?
Yeah, but we didn't create bullets here. Yeah, we need to call it my bullets.
Correct.
Because it's my bullets.
You got it. See? He is correct. You did. You do have it, Gabe.
I don't.
Yes, you do. But do we need to change the name of this one over here?
I don't know. I don't think so, because
where is that? Where is this variable created?
That's still a main, isn't it?
Think of this file over here. Is this bullet singular? Is that variable created somewhere?
Not here.
Look at the loop, line 24.
Unless okay, never mind. I corrected both of mine. That's probably why. I thought everything needed to become my bullets.
No.
So why does the first one need to become why is the first one just bullet and nothing?
Because that's how the loop works.
Okay.
It takes a list.
Yeah. And the list we've created up here, but this is my bullets.
But then for every item in the list, it creates a variable called bullet.
Okay. And
so for the first item in the list, a variable called bullet is created. And then it goes back up to the loop. Sorry, I had something in my... There you go. For the second item in the loop... for the second item in the loop, it creates another variable.
Yeah.
So it keeps creating this variable over here. So this variable is always alive in the loop.
Call it my bullets.
The whole list...
The array my bullets.
Yeah, the array is called my bullets. But in the loop, each entry is called bullet, and that's how this loop works.
But it knows that it should only take, since we have my bullets, which is 500 boxes, it knows there is only 500 my bullets.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it knows how many to loop through.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
I think I understand a little bit.
Good. We forgot one thing. So here's a fill for the gray color. If you go back to main, we had a fill for the spaceship.
Yes.
And we forgot to copy that over as well. It's on line 46, I think. It's above the spaceship, yeah. Because the drawing also sets the color.
Here.
Exactly. Great. So now we have taken...
All this? No? In main?
Later on.
Okay.
Let's leave it here. So now we have moved the drawing of the spaceship and the drawing of the bullets into the draw function of player. So if you want to draw the spaceship, we just say myBox draw. If you want to draw the bullets, we go through every bullet. If there's a bullet in the list, draw it. Okay. Then let's look at update for the bullet. Because we also need to update where the bullet is, how it's moving, etc. So we have myBox update with the collision. Great. Let's look at how update for bullet is in the main file. So we go through every bullet. If the bullet is in the list, is there in the list, we call update, but with an empty list. We still want to do this logic, right? So again, let's copy the loop and put it into. There we go.
918.
Put it into the update function.
Oh, into the so here.
Yes.
Oh man.
Highlight everything there. Yeah, but you have to fix then.
Oh man, this is complicated. This needs to go that way.
Yes, and then one, and then back. There we go. You got it. You got it. Formatting, it does matter because it helps with readability. So here we're doing update and draw, but we don't want to draw in the update function. So let's delete this one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So now when someone calls update with something to collide with, we check the box, we go through every bullet, and we call update with an empty one, right? Great. So if you go back to main, let me hit enter a few times so people can read. So what else is missing from player?
We have bullets, we have a box.
Mm-hmm. Where else is spaceship used?
Key type?
Yes. So we need to create those functions. So in box, we had onKeyTyped, which is the movement, and then onKeyReleased, which is also the movement. And here is all the logic. So in the same manner, we just want to create functions that pass the values on. So let's create onKeyTyped and onKeyReleased in player. And we can just do that by copying onKeyTyped from box.
Just put it at the bottom.
Yeah, we can do that. That's onKeyTyped. And then I can also create or copy the header for onKeyReleased. And just put that at the bottom. Indent a little bit. So we have void onKeyTyped, which gets a key, and then void onKeyReleased, that gets a key. But we don't want to implement this logic. The logic is already in player. So we just like to pass it along. So how would we do that?
Call it.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of the variable?
Of the player?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever myBox.
Mm-hmm. myBox. What's the name of the function?
OnKey is an OnKey.
You can check in box what it's called.
8.
That's onKeyReleased. What's the other one?
OnKeyType.
So it's the same name, right?
Yeah.
So you can just copy that name if you want.
This one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what does it take?
That I don't remember. It takes
a character. Yeah.
A key.
With,
what is this exactly again?
So this is a variable called character.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's like a built-in thing to the language.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And we just call it a key within that function. So it's a character. So do we have a variable of a type character in our player?
No, I don't think so. Do we? Oh.
Mm-hmm. Because someone is going to send it in.
Yes.
Yep.
We do right above it.
Mm-hmm. So we just say a key.
A key.
Can we do it the same thing for onKeyReleased?
Can we do the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I assume so.
myBox. What's the function name?
OnKeyRelease.
Mm-hmm. OnKeyReleased. What's the name of the variable that we can send in?
A key again.
Yep.
OnKeyReleased.
Mm-hmm.
Key.
Yeah. And again, I see one thing that you keep doing, and I have seen this. Don't worry, this is not a thing that's only for you. I've seen.
That would be special.
Okay, but I've seen this in like university students for computer science. The name here has nothing to do with the name out here. This name here exists only within this function.
Okay.
I can call this Steve. Steve the character.
Oh,
Steve is a real character, and that would not change how this thing works.
Okay.
Because
is that because it just called that here anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because this here we are creating a variable, and then we're using it over here.
Yeah.
Where this variable came from is, of course, from the outside. Someone called us. And the same way here, we have a variable called key. We're calling this function on key released, which is here, but it's called Steve within the function. And again, it doesn't matter. It can be called anything. It's just a name. It's just to be handy. Mm-hmm.
I like Steve.
Steve is a real character.
Rip Steve though. Add him to the meme.
Rip Steve.
It's gone.
He's a real character, right? Yeah, but don't worry. Like I've seen people do this mistake a lot. So the name of the variable in a function doesn't matter outside of the function. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we just passed this along. Great. Is there anything more we need to do if we go to main? If we look at spaceship. So spaceship here has an update and draw. We've done those two. Spaceship has an on key released, and spaceship has an on key typed. We've done that. And then spaceship has an initialization. We've done that. So we've done all the implementation here.
Yeah.
What about bullets? So bullet is here. We've done the initialization.
Yeah.
And we have done the initialization of current bullet. Great. Here on key typed is when you press the spacebar.
Yeah.
We haven't done that.
No.
So what we can do is we can copy the whole shebang.
The whole shebang.
Of if key is space, create a bullet. And let's go to player. And where is that function here? Where would you put it here?
On key type.
Correct. So let's just put it below that. And then indent it. You can highlight the whole thing and just hit tab. And then indent the if key as well. There you go. That's why I'm fast at it. Okay. And let's go through. Because we copied code from somewhere else, the variable names might not be the same. So is it called a key within this function? Yeah, sorry, is it called key within this function?
It's called a key.
A key. With a big...
that answer. Got it. I'm so smart.
So smart. Is it called bullets?
That's called my bullets, isn't it?
Yeah, my bullets. So let's go. I can copy that. So for those 3 lines, my bullets, my bullets, my bullets. Is it called current bullet?
My current bullet.
Mm-hmm. Correct. You see now why I changed the name?
Yeah.
Just to enforce that we have to change them here because they're not the same variables. It was just a matter of me.
We need to change them down here too, right? All of them.
Let's focus on these 3 lines first. Yeah. So I have my bullets. My current bullet is new box. I have spaceship X and spaceship Y with some coordinates here at the end. Is it called spaceship? Within the
no, it's called my box.
My box. Same thing for Y, correct? Do we have to change anything for the random?
No.
No? So here it's not called current bullet, it's called my current bullet. And the same thing for this one. Here we have an if. We're asking if current bullet is equal to the bullet's length.
Yeah.
It's not called current bullet.
My current bullet.
But is it called bullets here?
It should use my bullets.
Mm-hmm. My bullets. And then again over here.
Yeah, this one needs to be my current bullet too.
Mm-hmm.
Copy paste.
Yep. Riser has a thing. Yeah. If you want to select a singular word, you can double click on the word. And then you double click to paste. Yep.
I do that with like links here if I just want to select like a part of it. Who knew that followed everywhere?
Sedi also says, teach him how to highlight the variable, please. I'm getting anxious.
What? This? Does this bother you?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to copy paste this.
And forget.
And then I'm going to paste here. Oh, no. I forgot.
Oh, no.
I have to go back and
fix it.
And I have to type that one in manually.
Oof. Big oof.
Big oof.
Okay. So then that should be fixed here. If someone presses a key in player, we update the box, but we also handle the bullet logic. So that's it. Great.
I feel like main is going to be really empty.
That's the point. That is the point.
I'm going to delete main eventually.
No.
Damn it.
So where are bullets more? We've done the drawing. Great.
Nowhere. No, there's an update bullets down here in the bool for enemy.
Yeah. Where was it? Bool for enemy.
There.
Update with bullets. Yeah. But that's giving enemies the bullets.
Okay.
So that should be fine.
That's an interesting way of saying hitting them with a bullet. And giving them
Here
bullets.
you go.
Here's some bullets.
Please get hit by this bullet.
We'll not say how you're getting them. It might be through a projectile, but you get them.
Dearest enemy.
Dearest enemy.
I have here a collection of bullets. Would you kindly get hit by them? And the enemy is, oh, sure, of course I would.
Signing missiles. This is effective.
That's great. Okay. So let's do the same thing for enemy. And in this, so this was a practice of taking some logic and abstracting it into a class. And now I want to do it a little differently. I don't want to create one enemy. I want to create a class that is enemies, which is because it's a slightly different and it's a little different exercise you have to do. So let's then make another tab.
Another tab.
There's a little plus button there.
This one. Can we call it Steve?
No, Steve. F Steve. Let's call it enemies. Enemies.
Press F for Steve, please.
And then yeah, you see the tab I have here. Enemies. Great. So again, let's create a class. Class and enemies. So what is an enemy? Or what is a collection of enemies?
A box.
So it's an array of boxes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's create that. So we can say box array, and let's call that my enemies. Let's have a collection. Just these are my enemies. Here they are.
Nice and organized.
Nice and organized.
One page.
And then let's create a constructor so we can create this collection of enemies. And let's let's make the constructor take in how many enemies we would like to make.
Well, before I think we made 250.
250, yeah. So let's take in a number. Let's call it a count.
Ooh.
And then we can say my enemies is a new box of a count. So look at this here. So we have a class called enemies, which is storing a collection of boxes, an array of boxes. We have a constructor that when you call the constructor, it will create this array of boxes. Great. What else did we need to do when we create it? So we've done this line over here.
We need to do the for loop.
Need to do the for loop.
The loop.
Let's copy it over into the constructor. There we go. One more, and then you just fix the for. Yeah. No.
Is that right?
No. 2 in.
Look, okay.
Oh, Gabe. No?
No, one more.
Yep. Nice and aligned. Great.
Got it.
Okay, and let's go through.
Not good at visual thing. Okay, I'm very.
It's practice. It's just practice. Let's go through the for loop. So here we're creating the int. We don't have to change anything there. That's the I again. Here it says enemies. Is it called that? What is it called?
My enemies.
My enemies. Great. And here we have the I again. So that's fine. So in the loop we have enemies. It's not called that. It's called my enemies. And then we have random. We can keep random for now. Yep. That should be it. So we have then done.
How complicated would it be to make? I mean, it wouldn't be, right? Could we be able to do? Just hypothetically, we'd be able to do this too, right?
Yes. To get a random sized enemy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Let's do that in the end to have a little fun with it. We can.
Some enemies are harder to hit than others.
Correct. Okay. So what do we do with enemies?
We kill them.
We kill them. Is there anything in key typed for enemy?
I don't know. None key types.
Nope.
Or
Anything on key release? Nope. Anything here for enemies?
Yes.
Yeah. Spaceship gets the enemies as an update.
So my box should get the enemies.
But that is a spaceship thing, or that's a player thing, so we can't do anything there yet.
Yeah.
Or there's no enemy logic here, if you think of it that way. Then we just have this thing here, where we are both updating and drawing enemies. And in that case, we're looping through, and we are, if an enemy has been instantiated, we're checking the collision and doing an update, and then deleting, and then calling a draw, right? No player interaction, exactly. So this is both an update and draw, in the same way that the player has. So we can just copy update from player or box. So it's just a header, bool update box collision. Yep. Let's create that function in enemies. And how does that one look? Let's go to main. So that is a for loop. Let's just copy the whole loop here. Whole loop. We can edit it within the function. Exactly. Yes. You did it. Let me first try. So we have our update function, which takes in an array of boxes. It goes through every what? Enemies. Is it called that within this class?
No.
No.
My enemies.
My enemies. Great. And again, on line 18 here, it's if enemies. That's my enemies. And then on line 20, my enemies again.
Then again on 23.
And again on 23. And since this is the update function, we don't want to call draw.
I didn't do it, I swear.
No, it's fine. I copied the same thing. And we then don't also need to continue, because there's nothing below the code that is...
Why does your code look so much better than mine?
It's the same thing then.
Why do I have a space somewhere? I deleted a...
There we go. Yeah.
Oops.
It's fine.
Saved.
What
is happening with our lights?
People are following.
No.
No?
No.
Just a normal disco?
I think Hamish is turning different light settings on.
He's playing with us. So on line 20 here, bool collision, that is creating of a variable. If you have a type and a name, you're creating a variable. So we don't have to change anything here. But here it says bullets.
Yeah.
We don't have bullets here, but what array of boxes do we have here in the function?
My enemies. Up here we do.
Yeah. Do we have anywhere else an array of boxes?
There.
That is a single box?
No. Collision.
Collision?
Yes.
So we can copy that over. That is someone else is sending us, which is going to be the bullets later on. Okay. So then this should be good. And let's do draw. Where do I have it here? Draw. Void draw. Just copy the header. So we would like to draw all our enemies. With crayons.
Perfect. That's my style.
Yeah. We hit enter a few times so I can scroll. So this is the same header as any other function. So how do we draw enemies? Well, we can loop through them and then say enemies draw, right? Okay. Let's just copy this for loop again.
Oh, I already had it highlighted. The whole thing in there?
Bingo. But we don't need this updating and collision thing, right? Because that is being handled. Yeah. So we can just remove all of this. So for every enemy, we just call draw. Right? Don't forget the fill. Nice one. Thank you. Yes, we had a fill here in main. So let's copy that one over.
Just above the... No.
Above the for loop. Because if you put it here, There's no function there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
just
there.
It's in the void.
Just hanging out.
Just hanging out, not doing anything.
No, now it's in void.
Nice one. That's a good one. Haha. Okay. Is there more stuff in enemies? If we go back to main. So this is the updating and draw. And if we scroll through, nope. Doesn't seem to be. And was there anything here that is... Yeah, we forgot to change the name. So it's still called enemies. So we call them my enemies.
And in the draw as well?
Yeah, everywhere. Okay. So that is now a collection of enemies, which is box enemies. We say how many enemies we want to make. We create that many enemies. We have taken the update and put that into its own function, where we loop through every enemy, check if an enemy is still there, if he collides with something that we give them. If that's true, we would like to delete the enemy. And if we would like to draw...
It's still funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. We loop through every enemy. If the enemy is still there, we draw the enemy. And again, like we asked the question, enemy might not be there because hitting a bullet might set the enemy to null. And because we always have an array of 250 and how many enemies there are, they'll always be there. The list will always be that size. But we might take one enemy and just put a null there instead. So we still loop through everything. There are ways to optimize this, but for now it doesn't matter that much. Okay. So that is that. Let me double check my notes if everything is okay. I think so. Then let's go to main. And I want to try something out.
Oh, snap. Let's do it. Adventurous.
Yeah. From line 1 to 9 up to here.
Uh-oh.
Delete.
Oops.
Don't delete everything.
You hit too much.
You delete too much.
Oh, wait, really?
Undo. You delete the setup function.
Oops.
You hit backspace and...
Oh, I hit back to here.
Yeah, okay. The setup we're not going to change.
Yeah.
It's fine. Key typed, everything here, delete.
All of the key, even... Oh, no, just inside of it?
Because we've implemented this already in the other files, right? Key released.
Key typed.
Yeah, the function is still... Because that's a magic function within the system itself. The same way setup and draw, remember, they're being called by the system. And draw, except for clear, everything here. Remember to keep one curly brace when you scroll down.
Oh my god, even further.
Yep, there we go. Delete. So now we have nothing up here in line 1. We have our good old setup, empty key typed, empty key released, and empty draw. Now let's use the abstractions that we have created. So which is player and enemies, which are using box to make a game, right? So let me scroll back up to my notes. So now instead of creating box, let's create player. So what is the type? Type is player, right?
Yes.
What do we like to call the variable? What should we call our player?
So now we actually get to come up with a game?
Yeah. Now we're going to...
Someone say no, my mic's not off. Stop trolling me, chat.
I can see the sound.
I'm just not talking. I'm listening.
No, it's in the yellow, so it's not really quiet.
I can move a little bit closer.
What should we call it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Any suggestions from chat to
give us a name? What
give
do we call it?
And this is just the name of the variable, but it will be fun, really. Let's see if chat has.
Can we go back to banana?
Bob it is.
First
Bob.
come, first serve.
First come, first serve.
Bob.
So that is the name of the variable. It's Bob, but it's of the type player because a player is a class. Okay. And how do we
call it NGON?
So we would like to create a player. So we said then new player, which is going to call our constructor, which is a function. What does the constructor function take? Remember that? Or you can just go, this is enemy. So let's go to player.
Ah, whoops. Isn't this one?
Yep. What's
so
it take?
We need int a x and int a y.
Yeah, so it takes an x and a y.
Yeah.
So where should we start? Let's just put him at 32 and 32, just to be somewhere. Okay, and we can just close this. Great. And then let's create enemies. So enemies, it's a class. called enemies. Let's just call them enemies for simplicity for now. And then
we
I can
have to make our enemies.
we have to make our enemies. And then with the same way, we say new enemies.
Yes.
What does enemies take? It's the count, which is how many?
Yeah.
How many did we have? 500?
250, I think.
250, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Here we have this key typed function.
Oops, I forgot.
Yeah. So who has an implementation of key typed?
Player.
What is it called?
On a key.
The function name.
On key type.
On key typed, great. What is the name of the variable?
A key.
No, in main.
Oh, this one.
The player, the variable player.
Bob.
Bob dot a key typed, and then it was called the global variable in the system is called key. Okay. On key released, same thing. Bob on key released, and we sent in the global variable key. Great. In draw, we still have our clear. Let me hit enter a little bit more so I can scroll. So how do we update player?
What is it? What way around is it? But Bob, we need to put Bob in there, don't we?
Yeah, we need to put Bob. What's the function called?
Update. Is it Bob.update?
Bob.update. And for this, let's not make Bob take in anything. So it's just an empty thing. How do we update players? Sorry, enemies.
Enemies.update.
Sorry, update. And so in the old system, the enemies got the bullets as a thing to collide with. Where are the bullets now?
The player.
Yeah.
Bob.
So Bob, and what are they called?
What did we call them? My bullets.
My bullets. So Bob dot my bullets.
Capital. Yeah.
Yep, capital. Cool. And we would like to draw the player, right?
Yeah.
Bob dot.
What do we put there? Box.
What's the name of the update function?
This one?
No, sorry. What? No, I misspoke. What's the name of the draw function? In player.
Wait. Hold on. My box. No.
No, the draw function itself. It's line 27 for you.
Draw. Just draw.
It's just called draw.
What?
No, I keep
so confusing.
No, it's fine. I keep doing it to reinforce the thing.
Okay.
So it's just called draw. Does it take in anything?
No. Does it?
You check it.
No.
Nope. Great. And how do you update enemy? Sorry, I keep saying update. How do you draw enemies?
I mean, just enemies, isn't it? Enemies.draw.
Yeah, type that.
Same thing.
Type it out. Yep.
Does this one take in anything?
Sorry?
It doesn't take in anything either.
Check it.
Okay. Well, no.
This is box. This is player. You have to check enemies.
Ah, yes. Oops. No.
Nope. Great.
Yeah.
We're done.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of fake debate was that? I wasn't ready to be done.
Yeah. What happens if I hit play? Bullets not defined. For me.
Same.
No, you got syntax error.
Oh, I messed something up.
So there is probably a bullets somewhere for me. Let me see, bullets. Yeah, here it is, an update.
But I don't have that problem, do I? I mean, I probably do.
Let me see.
So I want to turn all bullets into my bullets?
So here we go. No, I had one. So in line 17 for you,
yeah,
it's bullet is the same, but bullets should be my bullets because that's the name of the variable.
But that's okay otherwise.
So try that out, and I'll show you a trick in a little bit.
But I had a different error.
Yeah. Unexpected identifier. So what you can do now is, if you go to main, and you go to your draw function.
Yes.
What you can do is you can comment out, put 2 forward slashes in front of stuff. So put 2 forward slashes in front of all the functions. And hit play and see if you get the error.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. So then it's not
them
in those functions. So it's either in the constructor or it's in the onKey typed. So let's comment out. No, keep having. So undo the uncommenting you did. So it's the same. Player Bob, new player missing semicolon. Yes, someone found it for you. Line 1 at the end.
Wow.
Try that out now. Hit play. Yeah, and then you can uncomment the stuff. Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you.
Now you can hit space.
Uh-oh. Set horizontal null. All kinds of bugs in my code.
Let me uncomment back.
Yours works. So I've messed up. So it said horizontal was wrong, which is my bullets. It didn't like that.
So set horizontal is there. Bullets is a box.
My bullets, my current bullets.
It is, let me see if, so this is what, this is the file player for you.
Maybe, no, it's still called my box here.
Yeah.
And we call my bullets, and the variables my bullets. My current bullets, my current bullets.
Ah, no, yeah, that's the problem.
This
it's
one.
not, no, the line 48 should say my bullets. Because that's the name of the array.
Yeah.
And current bullet is where you are in the array. Yeah. There we go.
Yay.
Yeah, and then you should be able to move around as well. So we have the same game now.
Yeah.
It's functionally the same thing. Great. But look at the main file now.
It's empty. Well, not empty, but it's so clean.
It's so clean.
So clean.
You kind of appreciate the cleanliness a little more. Like here we just made a player called Bob. Here we made some enemies. What did you do?
I just wanted to move where he was.
Move the player. Yeah. That's fine. The setup is still the same. That's just to make the screen. If a key is typed, the player knows how to handle that. We just send it on through. If a key is released, the player knows how to handle that. And if you would like to update the player, we can just call update. Update needs a collision list. For us, we don't want to collide with anything. For the enemies, they want to collide with the bullets, so we send in the bullets. If you would like to draw the player, we draw Bob. If you would like to draw the enemies, we draw enemies. You see how the beneficial it is just to put stuff together and then put it away somewhere, because then you don't have to worry about it. And the benefit of all of this is we haven't changed box in many episodes, right? Because it has constantly just been a general useful tool to use. And then we build upon the general useful tool, right? Okay, so the episode promised a win.
Yes.
Yes.
Where's my win?
Where's my win? So let's implement a win. So what we have to do, the most of the work we have to do is in enemies. As I said in the beginning of the episode, we need to know how many the enemies are. And there is a problem here. And that is, we have myenemies.length, which is how big the array is. It doesn't mean how many enemies there are alive. But in the beginning, they're all alive, right? So we could just make an integer that has the count of how many enemies there are alive, and every time an enemy collides with something, we reduce the number, right? So let's make an integer over here in enemies.
I accidentally opened a YouTube video up, so Hamish's voice.
I
saw that the giveaway command is the old one.
Okay.
So I was trying to open it, but then I remembered that on the NGON YouTube channel, it's just Hamish going, So.
Yeah. So we create a alive count. He's fixing it now. Yes. There we go. Okay. So we make a variable here in enemies. It's an integer because it's just a number, and it's my alive count. Let's call it that. And in the constructor, what is that value. So my alive count. What should be that number? How many? How many enemies are alive?
250.
And what?
Oh, no, that depends on the.
That depends on what is sent in. So what variable in here has how many enemies we're going to create?
A count.
Okay, that is the only thing we have to do here. So that number is 250 for us in the beginning, or whatever, how many someone says. Do we have to change draw in any way, do you think?
Do we? My immediate thought is yes, because we have to update for the amount of enemies that are actually left. We have to somehow...
So this will go through how many enemies are in the list.
Yeah.
But this will check if the enemy is actually there or not.
Yeah.
So if the enemy is not there, it will not draw.
Yeah.
So do you think we need to update it?
Well, but we want it to not draw if the enemy is not there still, right?
Which we do already, right?
Yeah. So we don't need to change that, do we?
Okay. Let's leave that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do we need to update? That was a function.
Do we need to update? I mean, it's a collision. So we probably need to make sure that it knows to remove a count in some way.
Yeah. So we have the variable alive count, which is, let's say, 250 in the beginning. And where does an enemy die? Where does that happen?
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So in that if over here, right? Yeah. So if this enemy that we're looping through has died, it's set to null. And then we can also remove, and I can show you a thing. You could do alive count minus minus.
Ooh, what the?
Which is the same. This thing is the same as saying my alive count is equal to my alive count minus 1. It's the same thing. It's just a handy thing. So we decrement the number. And we don't have to do anything more. Because this number over here is going to keep count on how many enemies are alive. All right? So if you go back to main.
Going back to main.
Let me scroll up on my notes.
I don't know why I thought of West Virginia there, that song.
I have like 8 pages of notes here, so I need to...
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Party time in the notes.
Exactly. So let's put an if around the update. Because we want the game to stop when all the enemies are dead, right? So if enemies dot my alive count. Because now that variable is within enemies, and we have enemies in main, we have access to that variable.
Is it equal 0?
No.
No, we don't. We say that later.
Yeah, we can say if it's greater than 0.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we put that, the curly braces around those. So if the enemies count is bigger than 0, we can update. That's totally fine.
Where is it? There.
And then we can just say else. And let me show you a new thing. We can say fill for 255 to get a white color. We can say text size with a big S and a small t. Let's say the text size is
1,000,000. Okay, sure.
It's actually bigger than my notes because I thought it would be funny. And then you can just say text. What should we say? Win. And then you would put where the text would be. So let's say 100 and 100. So here's the logic. Every time someone calls draw, they clear the screen. If the enemy alive count is greater than 0, you are allowed to update, which is the movement and the inputs and all that stuff. Otherwise, which then means alive count is 0 or lower, we set the color to white, we set text size to 256, and we say text win. Should we try it? I think we can kill all the enemies on the screen.
Who's going to win first?
Let's go.
I didn't move, though. You're at an advantage. I stopped shooting. No! No! It's all escalating.
Oh, a winner is going to be me.
Wait, you might get unlucky, though.
Yeah. Come on.
Making my move.
Come on.
I'm making my move.
Come on.
Oh, I keep moving it and stop shooting.
No!
What does that say?
Oh, the text is out of the...
It's just VV. Oh, it's because it's too high up.
It's too high up, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
How do we lower that?
Yeah, how do we lower that?
It's X and Y, so it's this one. So like 250 maybe?
So the X was okay, right? It was the indentation. So it's probably 100.
Or
and
maybe,
then,
I don't know. Maybe it's 150.
Yeah.
Not 1,500.
Let's have a little fewer enemies so we can test this out. So I'm going to put 2 enemies.
2.
You see how easy it was to change how many enemies there are now? You just put the number 2 there and now you have 2 enemies.
Oh, mine are like super far away on the opposite side.
Come on. There we go. That's a little better.
Yeah.
There we go. It's cool, right?
Yeah, we won.
We won. There we go.
Yeah.
And you can see now through just taking those elements that we identified, we kind of grouped them together, moved them away to their isolated environments. We can create a player, which is a box and a bullet. When we update the box, and we go through and update the bullets. When we want to draw, we draw the box and we draw the bullets with the key typed. When we press the space bar, we do the old bullet logic, and then key release is here below.
Sorry, I'm really distracted trying to...
It's fine.
I want to try some green text. Yeah.
Green text.
I'm just matching my box.
Good. And with enemies, again, enemies is just a collection of boxes. We instantiate them, we update them, and we draw them. So, and then box has been our trusty steed through all of this. And a box is just an X and a Y, a height and a width, and the vertical and horizontal movement.
Feels like we've been on a journey with box.
Yeah. You can see how much you can actually do with what is in fact just
a box,
6 numbers. Like all of this is a collection of objects that are 6 numbers. And with that, we're able to create this. And that is kind of crazy. And that's what computers are. It's just a collection of numbers put together in a neat way to have fun, to win.
We won!
There we go. And that's it. So next week, so we are done with the game. I will upload what I have right now in the sketch on the open processing. It will be put up on GitHub. For those watching live, it will be put up later today. For those watching on YouTube, it should already be on GitHub. Or you can, if you're following Gabe on open processing, you could actually just now go and fetch that, because it's called The Bestest Game from Gabe Likes.
There's 3 sketches. Remember back in the day?
Back in the day.
Back in the day, we had NGON logos.
NGON logo.
My mouse.
It's cool. I was watching some older episodes for no reason, and I was just watching. I'm seeing a major improvement in you. Yeah, so it's been fun. But again, it's all practice. It's all practice. So the idea, there's one more episode. So this is episode 10. We have episode 11 next week. Of season 1.
Season 1.
We have episode 11 next week. It will not be the game. The game is now considered done. If you want to take it and play with it and add things and do whatever, please do. Have fun with it. You don't need to reference anything. Just play with that bit of code.
Go crazy.
Go crazy. This is yours. But next week, it's more of a fun setup, more of a fun episode. And I will have a tiny surprise for you.
I'm scared.
It's fine. We'll be fine.
I like this though. The win.
The win.
The screenshot is just a win.
It's good stuff.
So if you want to come visit my profile, you can win too.
You can also win. So did we have next session full Unreal Engine?
Yes.
So we went from 6 numbers to Unreal Engine, right?
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
We're gonna do it first episode.
Yeah, it's not a big thing, but next week is more of a fun episode. We can have a Q&A, people asking questions. We can go over the code if people have questions, and I have a little surprise fun thing to start the episode with.
Sweet.
Well,
same time next week.
Same time next week.
See you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.